Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to episode 291 of the On Air Advocate. Where at the On Air Advocate, we provide education, advocacy, supportive services for special needs parents, caregivers, and those with different abilities and complex medical conditions. For those of you who may not know me, my name is Tammy Flynn, and I am the host and producer of the On Air Advocate. And I am super excited if you are here this afternoon joining us live, or if you are catching this on the replay. Now, as always, if you think any of the content that we are talking about today could be relevant for anyone in your network or your circle, please hit the share button and share the love. Now, if you guys have been watching since last week, you know that we are in our transition series, and I am so excited today to welcome a new guest to the show, Lisa Dickie. She is the owner of Dickie's Cooking School, and we are going to be talking about all things learning life skills today. But welcome, Lisa.
Well, I'm so thrilled to be here. Thanks, Tammy. I'm really, really excited.
Yes, and this is the first time that you're on the show, so I would love for you to share with the audience just a little bit about Lisa and your family and your background.
Of course. My name's Lisa Dickie. I live in Toronto, Canada, with my husband and two kids and dog. And I have a background as a special education teacher. I taught for the Toronto District School Board for a number of years and also was an ESL teacher in the city before I worked for the school board. And through lots of different iterations of work, I've always done cooking. I used to do freelance catering and cater private events and just always really loved cooking. My experience within the school system when I was teaching special ed is because I had a program that I could sort of I had free reign in the program. And so I built into that, and that was a special ed program for the elementary schools. And I built in a regular cooking component on Friday. Basically, if all the other work was done, we could cook something or do a science experiment. And it was obvious that that was like it was a big draw for kids. They loved it. They were really motivated to get stuff done because they really wanted that experience cooking. It was, and so from there, I just decided, I think I want to try to have sort of not like a chef school. I'm not a trained chef, but to have a cooking school where the emphasis would be to learn like the fundamentals of cooking, like sort of the fundamentals of approaching many dishes. It's often even doesn't matter on the cuisine. It's always the first initial steps are very similar. And I thought if people had that chance to be able to learn some skills, like just basic skills, like knife skills, chopping skills, and those things, and got a sense of what they liked to eat. Of course, we go by recipes, but also there has to be, to me, I think there's a really important element where you need to be able to freewheel it in the kitchen, because when you're older or when you're cooking for yourself, sometimes you don't have everything that's in the recipe. So you need to learn how to improvise. You need to be able to give yourself permission to improvise and be confident that you can be familiar with the flavors and how things would go together in order to do that. And so I did. I opened a cooking school. It'll be 5 years ago in December.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's been a really wonderful, and I'm grateful for it. Like it's just been a really great steady growth within that. Even despite COVID, I switched very quickly to virtual classes. Just because what else you have to. At first I was like, this seems ridiculous, and then thank God I did it. And I just it's allowed me to have loads of experience either teaching. I teach lots of kids, of course, summer camp and school camps and after school programs. I teach lots of adults, private lessons, group classes, and corporate events. And then just by kind of almost by chance, I was approached by the Down Syndrome Association 3 years ago about doing a group cooking class. And it didn't even occur to me before, even though I have a background in special education. And that's been a really wonderful, that's turned out to be a really wonderful niche within my business to be able to plan classes specifically for the Down syndrome community, and also adults with autism. And I've also worked with adults who are transitioning to independent living through CAMH, which is a mental health, a large mental health unit in the city that caters to a lot of people, but it caters also for adults who are going from an assisted living to independent living.
Okay. And so when did you phase out of teaching then and being at the school system about 5 years ago then? Did you
No,
continue?
I phased out teaching when I had my son. Basically, I was teaching special ed, and then I had my son, and without going into too much detail, I was on leave, and then I wanted to have another child, and basically the school board was like, you have 2 months to get pregnant or you need to resign. And so I thought at the time there were so many teaching jobs. I'm like, okay, easy peasy lemon squeezy. And then as it turned out, it wasn't actually that easy. There's
Right.
there's ebbs and flows in jobs. And so I kind of created my own teaching job.
Okay. And now that you've opened the cooking school, you've been doing this for a while
Mhm.
now, you're 5 years in. And I know from us talking and in our friendship outside of this interview platform here, that we have discussed obviously the greater creation of, more courses and more classes and whatnot for those with different abilities and being
Yeah.
able to really share the importance of learning those life skills. And so the programs that you've already developed, like for the Down Syndrome Association and whatnot, take us through that a little bit with the life learning skills and the importance of that you see and the different strategies that you teach that you think help, like with the parent and the young adult working together and
Yeah.
things.
Well, so there's been this, I have a cousin who had Down syndrome, and so she's now in her 60s.
Mm.
And so there's been enormous shift just within that community in terms of longevity, in terms of quality of life, in terms of like just what people know now versus what they knew even 20 or 30 years ago, has shifted, and it's shifted in a positive way. Um, and one of the significant shifts, and this is what really inspired me to think very earnestly about a life skills class, is that without sad the risk of sounding morbid, it would be very rare if you had a child 30, 40 years ago with Down syndrome. Likely they would pass away before that. It wouldn't necessarily be an issue for you to consider them living independently or having any kind of independent living skills, because they would always be living with their parents. And so with advancements in terms of nutrition and health and education and opportunity, really, that's no longer the case. Or maybe that never really was the case. It was just the way they approached it. And so there's like a real need for young adults who are intellectually challenged to have appropriate resources to learn how to take care of themselves, whether they're living with an older sibling, or whether they're living in a group home situation or an assisted living situation, to be able to know how to prepare meals, but on top of that, not just preparing meals safely, but like all those other particular details, like around kitchen hygiene, like making sure that you don't cross contaminate, knowing
Right.
how do you know if something is bad? How do you know if it's off?
Good
How
skill.
do you check if the meat is done? How do you clean up that stuff after the fact?
Right.
How do you if appropriately or effectively wash a pan. And then there are other things like if there are manual dexterity issues, what are some other tools you could use, or how would you how do you use your how do you become familiar with your own physical limitations to
Right.
plan what you're gonna make, right? So
Having the appropriate, like you said, the tools
mhm.
and the different things that you need. And what about also the like grocery shopping and things
Yeah,
like that, knowing the specific things, or kind of the necessities that you should have on hand.
absolutely. So we cover many things. So and that is included in like how would you, and that's not I feel like people sort of like um kind of blow it off like, oh, you should just wait. It's actually there are a lot of skills involved in planning your groceries for the week,
Hmm.
paying for your groceries, being familiar with the best before date, being like knowing what to look for, and like it's not really, there's a lot of things going on, and it's complicated, but it's what I try to do is sort of break it down, like what are things that you would always kind of need to have on hand,
Right.
assuming that you use those, or if you don't use those, like sort of get a sense of what's your kind of what are your 7 to 10 meals that you
And
cook?
doing that pre-planning, kind of doing that
Yes,
pre-planning out, and then the things that you're gonna need, for that. And I mean, I can tell you that, I mean, I feel like it's more for every community and at every level, this is so needed. Because myself, I even find like, okay, so what temperature is the chicken supposed to be at? And
absolutely.
how should I make this? And, don't you find that now so many years have gone by from like 20 or 30 years ago when you had like your oven, and I don't know what year the microwave was invented, but whenever that came out to now, all these advanced air fryers
Yeah,
and different machines that you can use that you don't even really need to use a stove, you
yeah,
know, for the
that's
most part.
yeah, that's true. Like I feel like and I think that that's an important point because of course everybody um it it benefits everybody to learn how to do that, to know how to plan your groceries. It's healthier to cook your own food. It's more cost effective to cook your own food. It's a creative outlet to cook your own food. Like all of those things are really important skills, and they're definitely skills that everybody should learn. And sometimes I feel like when people get to a certain age, regardless of what their um, intellectual capacity is, I feel like after a certain age there's like this like shame around not knowing it, which is I feel like just gets in your way. There's no
Right.
reason. It's just I don't feel, if I were playing hockey, which I'm not, but if I were and I didn't know, like it's like if you don't know how to skate, well, if this is what you want to do, then there's no shame associated with learning a new skill. It's just a skill. It's just
Right.
different, right?
And currently, Lisa, these life skills classes that you do offer for all abilities, and learning cooking and all of those things, are those just offered currently right now? They're in your cooking school setting,
Yeah.
your brick and mortar business location
Yes.
currently? Okay, and eventually, kind of what is your vision? I know that you are working on possibly branching that out to be able to do some of these things as a resource, like online or through a
Yeah.
course, or
That's my goal, is to have a a comprehensive digital life skills course where it would have like a digital skill library. So how do you cut an onion? How do you substitute this for this? Like a visual library, um and then walk you through like fundamental
right?
cooking lessons that you're going to use like over and over and over again, and then of course lessons, and then everything else. How do you know if your fruit is bad? How do you pick fruit in the grocery store? how could you do a sample menu plan for a week? How do you break a sample menu plan for a week and then break it down into the pieces that you need to cook all that stuff?
Right. I feel like I need that fruit class. Think I need to know. I'm like, I always heard like some things you smell and some things you push on. And
With
sometimes I'm really not sure because I get home and then I'm like, okay, that wasn't, I thought I did it the right way. I thought I bought the right one, but I guess it wasn't.
with that, I honestly, if I'm in a hurry in the supermarket, like that's the other thing too, is that it's not easy to shop. It's not easy to be in a big environment and have this big list and you're trying to go through it. And if you're with someone else and because honestly, when it comes to picking out produce,
Mhm.
so much produce is, if not rotten, so close. So I don't know how many times have I done it in a hurry and I've said it, always check the bottom of your berry container. Always check it. I don't even follow my own advice. You get it home and it's like there's 3 good raspberries on top and the whole underside is
It's
green
moldy.
fuzz. It's like but there are a lot of factors involved in it. And I feel like sometimes um that's kind of dismissed, that it's trickier than it looks. It's not impossible, but it's trickier than it looks.
Yes, yes. And so having all of that broke down into different um, categories and sessions and printouts and handouts and
Yeah.
videos, I think is absolutely so needed. Now, I know you said since the pandemic you had moved over to virtual and now you are back in live sessions. And I bet you that all of the kids and young adults are loving it.
They do love it. You can really feel it at the beginning of the summer, especially last summer, because the way lockdown was organized in Toronto or Ontario,
Mhm.
um, was you were like, it was done from like last year. I think it was January, pretty much to the end of June. And I'm sure that the city or the government knew that there would be like revolt if you canned summer camps. But you could feel it, like especially last summer when kids came for camp, it was exciting for them to be around peers, really, like just being
Right.
able to play outside, like just for it to be kind of a normal, fun experience
Yes.
and not like, because I still do virtual cooking and I like those. I think that I mean, obviously virtual is here to stay. Um,
Yes.
but there's lots to be said for doing something in person, especially because cooking, there's like you're using everything, right? You're touching stuff, you're smelling stuff. Obviously, well, I'm hoping you're tasting it. Like that's
Right, so there's all the components of it, but,
yeah,
with the life skills training and course and all of that, you look to bring that also there'll be that video component, so hopefully people can have the same things on the list that they have at home and, be able to do
yeah,
that together, via video, but, the reason, I wanted to integrate you into this transition series is obviously learning life skills as we transition from high school and beyond is so important, as you're saying, I mean,
oh yeah,
fundamentals of grocery shopping and learning the appropriate tools to use for things and the sanitation practices and all of that. But also the opportunity to do other classes. So, when young adults a lot of times transition out, they're moving into eligibility services. So
yeah,
they might not be eligible for a life college type program, or they might not be eligible or the perfect fit for a certain type of employment. They also might not be, eligible, or it might not be the right fit for them to be a part of a day program.
yeah,
These are other opportunities outside of that. And that's why I like to highlight them when we talk about you transition out. There are different workshops and classes and life skill courses and things like that. That are open that you can still be learning, meeting other people, right? So, even if you're doing it in person, you're meeting, or if you're doing it in like a Zoom setting, with a group, it gives that opportunity of community.
Yep.
So being able to be involved in different things. And so I know you're in Canada.
Yeah.
And so are there lots of resources, or I don't know how familiar you are, that when young adults kind of bridge out of high school? Do you know for your area? I mean, I know the struggles we have here. Uh,
There are limited resources. So there is like there's organizations like community living for the city or whether what other city you're in. And then there are day programs that they've opened up again.
okay,
Um, and then there's organizations, for example, I know that the Down Syndrome Association offers like art classes and virtual classes, art classes and whatnot. But it's limited. So I think for high school, you can be in high school, maybe in an extended program.
you're 21.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's done. And with COVID, I understand now we're out of that. A lot of people had nothing. Like there was nothing. No. So like no community opportunities and
Right,
no opportunities to, like you said, to gain um skills or practice that would either, I mean, obviously if you're taking a cooking class or a life skills class, that could funnel you into a food the food industry, right? Whether in
right,
a restaurant or something. But there are other things that can be done as well. But it's also those really like just learning something new is good for your brain. Just practicing something, um,
right,
whether you want to work in food services or not is kind of irrelevant. But just having that opportunity and part of the motivation to create this like a digital version of this course is just because there isn't a ton out there.
right,
There's not a lot. And my understanding when I talk to parents is that you basically, when you have a child with special needs, if your parent isn't a pit bull advocate, like it's the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and if you make no noise, you get nothing. Like there's like no one comes to you and says, "Oh, by the way, did you know if they take this course, that could be eligible for funding for that?" Like it's really you are you and so for if you're a child whose parent is maybe not a confident advocate or doesn't feel comfortable doing that, or maybe English isn't their first language, or who knows, there's many reasons, but that it means that there's like young adults who have lots who could learn lots of things and just have uh um a more like interesting, enriched life. But if you don't have a parent or someone in your life who can advocate to get you into these programs or to research those programs, um, then they don't really end up having a lot of opportunity.
right. Well, and the synergy in that is obviously you're in Canada, we're here in the United States, and it's all really still the same. You know what I'm saying? Is that you have to advocate for each and every step of the way for the things that you want. In addition, for our young adults, really learning as much as they can self advocacy, and that's why, like today on the some of the shows that we had live today, we had some of our young adults advocates, that are self advocates that have gone through the journey themselves for them to share personally. These are the struggles that they have had and how they have either morphed things into the type of job they want, or found transition to different programming in another area. But I think that it's so important for these young adults, to learn good self advocacy skills as well. And for classes, something nice here that is in the United States is that, which you may have some programs as well through some of your independent living centers. So some of our
Oh yeah.
independent living centers offer self advocacy courses. They also offer different types of small cooking classes, I guess you would
Yeah.
say. So it's not the big spectrum, but it's like a little 4-week class. So, and then different ones on independent living skills
Yeah.
and whatnot, also things for mental health and all of that. So, I would definitely, obviously, people might not be able to come right on over to you. I would to your store in Canada if they're listening here in the United States. But I would definitely seek out here some of our independent living centers and see the classes and the workshops that they offer. Lisa, when I met you, I had never heard of someone having a cooking school that did some of the things that you do at your school in a brick and mortar setting. So I would, love for that to be programs that we offer here, in the
Yes,
United
it's
States.
really, I find it's so rewarding. It's so
Mhm.
wonderful. And um honestly, sometimes I find it heartbreaking because people are like, this is like the only this is like the only like there is not a lot. And you see these people who are like really brimming with enthusiasm, and they really, really are motivated. They want to learn. They're excited to learn. They're in every way. Um, I mean, I have lots of years of teaching with my own thing or just teaching with the school board, and just dying to learn, like so excited to try it.
Right.
And they're really like, even in the city that I'm in, like Toronto's a big city, like geographically, it's a very broad city. And there's a lot of people. And just to highlight it, there's very few. I think I'm the only cooking school that has a section for like a specific course category for adults,
Abilities.
for neurodiverse adults. They're
Yeah.
just really, it's just not there.
Right.
And so that's an enormous population, and it's lonely. It's lonely and it's boring to never to never get it. I feel like crumbs are being offered, and
Right. And
it's
so that's why, like the show today and people sharing not only the opportunities they have to offer, but all of us being able to share. Hopefully, like I was saying earlier today, in 10 years from now, I hope that there is plentiful things,
me
plentiful
too.
life colleges, plentiful programs, whether that's from art classes to writing to cooking, to those things, as well as plentiful employment. We have seen spring up, and on last Friday, I did an interview with one of our newest coffee shops that opened up here, who is employing the majority of the staff is all those with different abilities. And so the more that we can, make noise and put that out there, that this is also a need as well. Hopefully change will come
I
with all
think
of
so
that.
too. I
Mhm.
think so too. You have to be, um, but if you want it to change, you have to make it happen. It's not like, if like basically waiting for someone else to do it, it's not necessarily going to happen. Yeah, I've been
Sometimes you just open it, you just do it, you just do
yeah,
it. So, but I am so excited about the services and the classes and the things that you have to offer. If somebody, even if they're here, but they want to learn more about what you have to offer, so maybe once you offer things virtually,
yeah.
in a course format, they're able to get in touch with you. What is the best way to connect with you?
Best way would be to go to the website, to go. It's so, and it's a long, but all there. It's dickiescookingschool.com.
Okay,
And
easy enough.
yeah, and yeah, I basically grew up my whole life wishing that my last name was Smith or McDonald. Like, it was like I hated my name with like a passion of a burning sun. And then I just, after a certain point, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to use it anyway.
Just embrace it. And just
I,
like we tell people, embrace your story, embrace your name, embrace who you are and
yes,
your uniqueness, right?
exactly.
All right. Well, Lisa, I thank you so much for sharing with us today. Below this broadcast, as well as in the show notes, I will put the website so it's easy to find. And Lisa, to get in touch with you as well, do you hang out on Instagram or Facebook more?
I'm more often on Instagram, but I am on both Instagram and Facebook. I can definitely be reached in both of those places.
Okay.
And one day I'll do TikTok food videos, but it's not today. Not today.
Right. Yeah, one day I'll do TikTok too. Not today either, but hopefully in the future.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for joining us this afternoon and sharing with us all about Licky. I just messed up there. I was going to say your name. See, you were just saying about how you don't like your name. Sharing with us all about Dickie's Cooking School and the life skills that you are teaching these young adults. I'm so happy that you joined us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Total pleasure, as always, seeing you.
All right. Thanks so much, Lisa. Thank you guys all for tuning in this afternoon to all of our broadcasts, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks again, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.